Welcome to the Midgard Press. My name is Jay. So we're going to be talking about the Bestiary, and the Bestiary is like 17 pages long, give or take. So I'm going to break it down into two parts, just because I want to go into a little bit more detail about some of these monsters, but I don't want to necessarily just go on a rant about the monsters, because each monster is special. Each monster has their own little special thing that they do. But I have to say, Free League is impressing me by the way that they are describing some of these monsters. I mean, just absolutely surprising me. And we'll get into that here in a minute. But first, look at this art. I mean, this is the page that leads into the Bestiary. You know, it shows two player characters fighting off this worm, some kind of serpent, right? And you can only tell because it's got this long body. Now, I will say there is no serpent or worm within the Dragonbane Bestiary as of this moment. So the Bestiary is basically the monsters and creatures and common animals that you will find within the adventure guide. So like, you know, when you're when the GM is running one of the adventures within the adventure book, the stats for the monsters or creatures or whatever will not necessarily be right there within the adventure. So most of them should be published here in the Bestiary, and we're going to go through them. We'll stop on the giant spider today, and I have to say, the giant spider is one of my favorites to read. Anytime I have a party encounter a monster or a creature, I ensure that we read the description, basically, of what the monster is, just to give it a little more narrative as to what they're fighting. So let's jump in, shall we? Oop, oop, oop. So this game features not only dragons and demons, because it's the core premise, but all kinds of deadly beasts. A monster is a creature of unnatural origin, a terrible beast that strikes terror in all and defies the natural order. This chapter presents a large range of monsters and several humanoid creatures the player characters can encounter on their journeys. At the end of the chapter, a number of common animals are listed as well. Monsters are controlled by the GM and act largely in the same way player characters and NPCs in combat. But there are significant differences which are described below. Ferocity. Some monsters are so powerful they can act multiple times in the same round. So remember, as we talked about previously in several episodes before, player characters can only go once. They only have one action per round, unless they have a heroic feat that allows them to do more than one action per round. Every player character will only get one action per round. But this is saying that with their ferocity, monsters are so powerful, or some monsters are so powerful, that they can act multiple times in the same round. This is indicated by their ferocity score. At the start of each round, the GM draws one initiative card for each point of ferocity. The monster gets one card or one turn per card, with one action and one movement on each turn. Waiting. If a player character swaps initiative cards with a monster, and this is an optional rule which I fully allow, the player character can choose any one of the monster's cards. Monsters themselves never wait. So a monster will never trade initiatives with another person or another monster or another player character. They will automatically go. They just go, because monsters, they just want to go. Size. Monsters come in all sizes. The game divides them into the following categories, which affect how large an area the monster can block and how narrow a passage it can move through. So you got small, normal, large, medium, and swarm. Small. A small monster is less than a meter tall and cannot block any area. It can easily pass through tiny passages. Normal. A normal sized monster is roughly the size of a human. It can block an area of a 2x2 meter, one square on a combat map, and can pass through a passage half a meter wide. Large. A large monster can block an area of 4x4 meters and pass through a 1 meter wide passage. Huge. Oh, that's like if it turns sideways. Huge. A huge monster can block an area of 8x8 meters and pass through a 2 meter wide passage. Swarm. A swarm can range in size from normal to huge, but never block the areas it is in and can pass through tiny passages. Yeah. So those are our sizes. Movement. Just like the player characters, monsters have a movement score and can move before or after their attack or divide their movement before and after the attack. Note that this score differs to movement per turn for monsters, not per round. Some monsters have different movement rates on land, in water, and in the air. Taking flight or landing are free actions. And it's just like becoming prone or standing up. Like it's a free action. Monsters attack. Now we're getting into the fun part. Monsters always use a monster attack when it attacks. Each monster has a unique set of monster attacks, which are summarized in a table. The GM chooses an attack from this table when it is the monster's turn to attack. Monsters never roll dice to hit the target. Let me highlight this for you. Monsters' attacks automatically succeed. They don't have to roll. They automatically hit, okay? Now, when I read through this the first time, I thought that was like, wait, what? Hold up. But it's true. Monsters auto hit. And I tell you, it is fun. And it says right here that, the GM can either roll for their attack or choose an attack. I don't choose an attack. I roll for it. I like the fact that it is random. It provides more interesting results, honestly. It truly provides more interesting results to combat itself. So I suggest always roll for it. It really is becoming my favorite thing that the monsters auto attack and I just roll to see what they hit, or roll to see what they do. Like, it's just fantastic. Anyways, dodging and parrying. As a rule, a monster attack can be dodged, but not parried. This applies to attacks with an area of effect as well, but not fear attacks. Exceptions to this rule are stated in the monster attack description. Now, there are some attacks that say this can be parried, or this cannot be parried, or this can be dodged, this cannot be dodged. Like, there's specifics when it gets to those situations, but they can always be dodged, but they cannot always be parried. Conditions. And I talked about dodging and parrying a while back in a previous episode. I think it was special actions, I think. Conditions. Monster attacks can inflict conditions on player characters. If a character gains a condition they already have, the player must choose another condition instead. Repeated attacks. A monster never makes the same attack twice in a row. If the GM rolls the same monster attack 2 consecutive times, the second roll changes into or changes into the next attack on the table. So the 6 result becomes a 1. The 1 becomes a 2. The 2 becomes a 3. 3 becomes a 4, so on and so forth. So more dangerous monsters. The monsters in this chapter are typically specimens. There are legends of dreadful beasts that are even more dangerous. The GM can make monsters, more or less dangerous to suit the player character's competence. The easiest way to do this is to increase or decrease its ferocity, but HP can be adjusted as well. So if you feel that as a GM, the monsters are doing too much damage to somebody, take just one of its ferocity actions away. So it can only do 1 action instead of 2, or 2 actions instead of 3, so on and so forth. Skills. Monsters can have skills, but they are mainly used outside of combat or for opposed roles, not for attacks. They only attack using their monster attacks. Fighting monsters, dodging and parrying. All monsters can dodge, and monsters carrying weapons can also parry. Each dodge or parry uses up one of the monster's actions in the round. Flip the initiative card over of your choice. Yeah, because if they have like 2 initiatives, you can flip 1 or 2, or whichever one you want. Roll against a default skill level of 15 for all dodges and parries by monsters. So I haven't portrayed monsters to dodge at all. I just let them take the hit. But I think I might, to keep combat interesting, I might allow them to roll for a dodge or a parry. Natural armor. Many monsters can have some form of natural armor. This works just like ordinary armor. Weak spots. A piercing attack can find a gap or weak spot in the monster's natural armor, just like on humanoid opponents. Toppling. A player character can topple a monster, rolling against a default evade skill level of 15 for all monsters. If the monster has 4 legs or more, the attacker gets a Bane on the roll. Disarm and grapple. Monsters cannot be disarmed or grappled by player characters. Darkness. Unless otherwise stated, monsters can see in the darkness and don't suffer the effects. So again, I mean, this is just laying the facts. Like, monsters are pretty nasty. They're a lot of fun. Like, as a GM that's ran D&D for multiple years, I think I finally found a system that allows the GM to have a lot of fun as well. And the player characters have a ball with all of this. I mean, once you run a game of Dragonbane, you'll understand. I promise it will not disappoint you. Resistance and immunity. Some monsters are resistant to certain damage types. This means that all damage of this type is halved, rounded up. Some monsters can even be immune to certain types of damage and therefore take no damage at all from such attacks. Fear and persuasion. Monsters are too terrifying to get scared themselves. I mean, this is actually an image of a demon right here. If you're looking at the screen, this is an image of a demon. It is a humanoid body. It's got this like protruding horn for a beard. It's got these 2 curved horns. It's got gauntlets on. It's got some form of armor. It's got a skull in one hand, a skull strapped to its belt. It's got this wicked ass sword, and it's got like hooves for feet and a scorpion tail for a tail. That's utterly terrifying. So, of course, monsters don't get scared. It's terrifying as it is. But many of them can still instill terror in the player characters. Monsters are also immune to the persuasion skill unless otherwise stated. All right, so This is a demon, like I said. Now let's look at the demon. It says, demons are mysterious and terrifying creatures from the grim world beyond. Like dragons, they are sprung from ancient magic, and they are driven by the same insatiable, arrogant hunger for power that also burns in the hearts of dragons. They view dragons as mortal enemies and despise all other creatures as lesser or essentially insignificant forms of life. They have a destructive effect on the structures of the world and seek to destroy all that is fixed, from social relationships, peace treaties, and friendships to nations, civilizations, and cosmic laws. Demons come in from all shapes and sizes, but their appearance is always frightening. The stats below are only an example. So these are just an example, which means you could do more if you wanted. So demons have a ferocity of 2, size is large, movement is 16, armor is 4, and HP is 64. Believe me, between the ferocity of 2, the armor of 4, and HP of 64, this thing's going to be a little hard to take down. So if you're looking at the monster attacks, it's a d6. So you roll a d6, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. If you get a 3, you then roll another d6 to determine what kind of curse the player character receives. So we'll just read a couple of these. Demonic Dread, number 1. The demon hisses terrifying threats in an ancient and terrible language. All player characters within 10 meters suffer a fear attack. So they have to roll against their willpower. If they fail, you go back to the fear table and roll a d8 to tell them what type of fear they received. 2, Claw Attack. The demon smiles and slashes a player character with its sharp claws. The attack inflicts 2d10 slashing damage. It can be parried. Now, okay, here's the thing. I have not encountered a single PC player character that has more than 18 hit points. Now, the only way they can get 20, a 2d10, if they get a 20, is if they roll a 666 for their attributes and they take the 18 in their constitution. And then as the free heroic ability of robust, they take another 2 to their constitution. That gives them a total of 20. Now, this one attack could potentially wipe out a single player character no matter what, because it inflicts 2d10 slashing damage. Now, it can be parried, so this could potentially destroy their weapon as well. Like, this is the stuff that I love. This is the part of Dragonbane that I really enjoy as a GM. Your players need to be tactful. They need to be strategic in how they fight monsters. They can't always attack. They cannot always attack. If they always attack, then they have no room to dodge or parry. And if they don't dodge or parry, they could be fucked. Plain and simple. And after we cover the Bestiary, we'll cover a whole episode on tactics, on what player characters could do, should do, and yeah, we'll just go from there. 3, we'll do curses, and then we'll move on to the next one, because we're not going to cover all of them. I want to leave some of it for surprise. I mean, you can easily pause this video and read, okay? But 3, curse. The demon points at an unfortunate player character within 10 meters and chants an ancient curse. The attack cannot be dodged, but all curses except number 6 can be lifted with Dispel power level 1. So, you roll a d6. The victim vomits a frog whenever they tell a lie. Roll a d4 every morning. On a 1, the effect wears off. Now, on a 1, because this system is a roll under. Remember, it's not one is a fail, one is a success. Number 2, any gold or silver the victim touches turns into dust. Oh gosh. Now, on a roll a d4 every morning, on a 1 the effect wears off. Now, as a GM, I would not tell the player character what they're cursed with. I would not. I would simply, like 1 and 2, like just let it happen as it happens. Don't tell them what they got cursed with. Just tell them that they feel something has come across their body and they feel something is inhabiting their body. Something along that line. I wouldn't tell them that they're cursed. I wouldn't tell them what specifically their curse is. I would just let them figure it out as they go. Dragons. Dragons are vicious reptilian beasts, mainly found in rugged, mountainous areas, where they build their dens in deep caves or abandoned dwarven mines. They are ancient beings of power and magic who consider themselves the true masters of the world. Dragons are cunning and often frighteningly I don't know that word, so apologize. Notorious for deceiving their victims with fair words and treacherous lies. On the other hand, they are as vain as peacocks and themselves susceptible to silvery tongue flattery. Another weakness is their attraction to gold, which often causes conflicts with dwarves, humans, and others who share the draconic lust for treasure and glittering objects. So, just as it mentions, I mean, they are willing to be susceptible to bards, though the silvery tongue, fantastic people that they are, but they also hoard all of their lovely gold or shiny and glittery objects. So, ferocity of 3, size is huge. Movement's 24, armor is 6, HP is 84. Wings, the mighty wings of a dragon allow it to freely move through the air. These things are huge and they are big beasts. A dragon could easily, if you're looking at the stats, a dragon could easily go toe to toe with a demon. That'd be interesting. Do some kind of like monster tournament, just to like roll monsters against monsters, see how they do. That'd be interesting. Huh. Maybe we'll look into that. Comment below if you'd like to see that. But anyways, we're gonna go back to the monster attacks because on a d6, a 1, the dragon roars. The dragon opens its mouth and lets out a chilling roar. All player characters within 20 meters suffer a fear attack, with a Bane on the willpower roll. So this specifically says that they receive a Bane on the roll. So they're intentionally wanting the player characters to fail this, basically. Claw attack. Number 2. The dragon sweeps its claws at 2 player characters who suffer 2d10 slashing damage each. Oh. And the way that I would do this is this player character gets this 2d10, and then I would roll another 2d10 for this player character. That way they don't receive that way they don't receive the same, they receive different. 3, Dragon Wind. The dragon flaps its great wings and creates a powerful gale that strikes all adventurers within 10 meters. Any loose objects and creatures of up to human size in the whirlwind are hurled 2d6 meters, take the same amount of bludgeoning damage, and land prone. Fantastic. I love this. I love this. Let's keep on moving. Ghosts. Ghosts are pretty tough. Ghosts are restless spirits of those unable to find peace in death. They are incorporeal undead who usually manifest themselves as translucent figures, often shimmering Blue with twisted facial features. They are always bound to certain places, normally linked to their physical remains or the event that caused their premature death. Ghosts almost always have a specific problem that needs to be solved for them to find eternal peace and leave the living alone. It may be a matter of revenge or a debt that must be paid. Other times, the ghost remains must be collected and given a proper burial. So they have a ferocity of 2, size is normal, movement is 12, armor is none, HP is 27. But here's the kicker: immunity. Ghosts are immaterial beings and immune to all damage except magic and fire. A defeated ghost is only banished for 1 shift, after which it returns. The only way to banish the ghost permanently is to cast Purge, or solve whatever problem keeps it bound to the living or to the world of the living. Persuadable. Unlike other monsters, ghosts can usually be persuaded, albeit with a Bane on the roll. So, monster attacks. Number 1 of the D6. Ghost Strike. The ghost lunges at a player character within 10 meters and strikes with great force. The victim is knocked back 2d6 meters, suffers the same amount of bludgeoning damage, and lands prone. 2. Touch of Death. The ghost sticks its translucent hand into the chest of an unfortunate player character and grasps the victim's heart. The victim suffers 2d10 points of damage and becomes scared. Armor has no effect. What? 3. Ghost Scream. The undead face contorts a horrible grimace and lets out a scream that chills the souls of all adventurers within 10 meters. All player characters must suffer a fear attack. Like, because it's ethereal, it's immaterial, it can stick its hand into the chest of a player character and grasp their heart. Okay, yeah, you're pretty much fucked. Like, I love this. And whenever I roll these attacks for the monsters, I always make sure to role play it. I give a whole narrative as far as how it happens. Because it's telling you, like, it's giving you this great storytelling of why would you not use it? Like, why? Giants. Giants are colossal humanoids with a strong but mysterious connection to the very bedrock of the world. Some scholars believe that they are related to dwarves. Others maintain that they are remnants of a great civilization that long ago rose against the dragons. Oh, that could be a fun narrative. Giants are mainly found in mountainous areas where they live alone or in small families. They are normally quite shy and reclusive, but some are highly territorial and will attack anyone who comes too close to their caves. So they have a ferocity of 1, their size is huge, movement is 18, armor is none, but HP is 74. Weapons. Giants often carry a large weapon. If the giants lose the weapon, monster attacks 1 and 4 are re-rolled. And if you're looking at this image, it looks like he just has a giant tree trunk. Like, that's fantastic. Weak spot. Attacks against the weak spot on the top of a giant's head inflicts double damage. Hitting the top of the head requires either a ranged attack with a Bane from an elevated position, or that the attacker first climbs onto the giant. The later requires an acrobatics roll with a Bane. Once up there, the player character must then make an acrobatics roll, not an action, on each turn to avoid falling damage and taking 2d6 falling damage. Oh my god. Like, they're giving you opportunities to really role play how you want to do this. But this is just fantastic. So let's look at the monster attacks. Crushing Blow. The giant swings its weapon over its head and bashes a player character with all its might. The attack inflicts 4d10 bludgeoning damage, and the victim is knocked down. Oh my god. Roar. The giant lets out a bellowing sound that raises the hairs on the adventurer's arms. All player characters within 10 meters suffer a fear attack. Jesus Christ. Stomp attack, number 3. The giant takes aim and tries to stomp 2 player characters within 4 meters of each other. Anyone hit by the attack suffers 4d6 bludgeoning damage and is knocked down. All right, giant spider, and then we're done for this episode, and then we'll cover the rest in the next. So giant spiders. And also spiders always, within the fantasy setting, spiders are always the best. They're just, something about them is just utterly amazing. Giant spiders are rapacious predators that can unfortunately be found all over the world. They are drawn to the dark and damp spaces, but always on the hunt for living meat in forests and caves, as well as mountains and ruined cities. Particularly sly individuals can even build their nest under popular inns or near underground libraries and treasure chambers. Ancient females can grow as large as a house, but most are roughly the size of a well-fed cow. Now, I don't know about you. I've seen well-fed cows. That's utterly terrifying for a giant spider to be the size of a well-fed cow. Good God. Giant spiders are smarter than they look, and in some parts of the world, older females can attain the status of oracles or demigods, which is very true. There's actually an adventure within the adventure book that deals with oracles. We'll just leave it at that. So ferocity of 2, normal for size. Movement is 24, armor 0, HP is 36. So 1, mandibles. The spider's serrated mandibles swish through the air like scimitars. The attack deals 2d8 slashing damage. 2, tearing attack. The famished spider lunges at the player characters, frantically attacking with its multitude of hairy barbed legs. All player characters within 2 meters suffer d8 piercing damage each. 3, mesmerizing eyes. The monstrous arachnid stares at the player characters with a terrifying multitude of eyes. All victims within 10 meters must make a willpower roll to resist a fear. Like, these are just great. Freely, you are doing the best job ever. You are making monsters that are not only terrifying and creepy, but mesmerizing by the GMs. Like, we love this. We love this. Thank you. Thank you for this gift. So, go back to each one. Pause the video to read each of the monster's attacks. I only read the first 3. There's 6 total. Read all of them. They are fantastic. I promise you will not be disappointed. But like this video, please. Comment, which of these monsters do you like the most so far? Which of these monsters do you think will just give the player characters the most crap, the most trash, the most death? But until next time, my fellow friends, my nerds, like I said, like this video, comment, and share it. Please share it. But till next time, live long and game on.